Hey, good morning, Facebook. This is Jim Blythe. This is the Veterans Impact Show. And if you can see my great friend Richard Crossley, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Army, head of the director of the JROTC in Fort Worth. We're going to be talking about youth development, responsibility, leadership, teamwork, community service, discipline. We're going to be talking about all. Welcome to the Veterans Impact Show, where our motto is Charlie Mike. Continue the mission. I'm your host, Jim Blythe, U.S. Navy Vietnam veteran and certified senior advisor. Join me as we feature veterans who continue the mission of leadership and commitment in our communities after serving our great nation. Why, you never know who you're going to meet or where we're going to go. So welcome aboard. Good day, and I got to tell you, I've got a really great program. Now, this is Military Month, and it's also within the VA healthcare system. It's Mental Health Month. But I got to tell you, with mental health and with all of the wonderful things that the military offers, I've got one of my really close friends, Richard Crossley, who is the director of the JROTC of Fort Worth, is my guest today. And he is in a fabulous location in the Davis Mountains. Richard, good day. How are you, brother?
All right. Good morning. Doing great. Glad to be a part of the show.
Now, you're in uniform, but you were telling me you've got 20 cadets. You were leadership, and you were in Fort Davis, and you're teaching these kids about history, and you're going to be doing a march later this afternoon. You're going up to Davis Observatory as well.
Yes. The part of it here, they raised the flag this morning in period costumes, which was great. That appreciation of history and seeing what life for soldiers were in the 19th century, especially the soldiers that were stationed at Fort Davis and Fort Concho. So they're now hiking up the Davis Mountain to the overlook and look down on the post from up on high.
Well, Richard, that's great. So you get those kids out and you really do some great things.
Yes, the thing, this is the culmination of our U.S. military history course that we teach. I'm proud of the fact we're the first JRTC program in Texas to teach an accredited history course. And so these top cadets that's competitive get selected to do a staff ride. And this year it was Fort Concho and Fort Davis in the McDonald Observatory.
Oh, wow. That's really great. Well, let's go back to give people a little bit of background, because when I first started broadcasting on 6:20 a.m. here in Dallas about the military and about veterans, you were one of the first guests I had on, and I got to know you as the director of the Fort Worth JROTC, and that was 2015. Man,
wow.
We've known each other quite a while, and you are U.S. Yeah, if you are U.S. Army, tell us a little bit about where you came from, what got you into the Army, and a little bit about your Army service, and then how you got into being the JROTC director.
Well, that's a long story, but I'll keep it short. I was the first in my family to go to college at Southwest Community College, but my first semester, I didn't do so well. And it's similar to that Southwest Airline commercial, Want to Get Away. So I wanted to get away. And I went downtown, Macomb, Broadway Street, and there was a poster of 82nd Airborne, maroon beret at $55 a month extra. So I signed up and did 3 years, got out, said, I'm never going back to the Army. Well, I go back to the same college, and the professor of military science was there. So he challenged me to a game of pool. Well, he won the game. So I signed up for ROTC and went back and did 20 years. I've, I enjoyed those years. I got out, retired in Dallas, out of APHIS as the deputy IG. And my brother-in-law was teaching JROTC at Dunbar High School. And I went to the military ball, and his boss was there saying I need an instructor. I got certified through Cadet Command, and I've been doing this since 2000 as a JRTC instructor. And in 2011, I became the director of all 15 high school programs and the 20 middle school programs in Fort Worth. So that's my story.
That is fantastic. And what is so great is you're taking high school kids and you're teaching them leadership and discipline, responsibility, teamwork, community service. You and I have talked about that a lot. And you're doing so much for these young men and women. And you've got everybody that are involved. I mean, here is an opportunity so that, if you say to a kid, hey, well, what'd you do this weekend? Well, I sat around, I played video games. Well, what'd you do this weekend? Well, I went to the Davis Mountains with Colonel Crossley and we learned about history and we got to be out in the open. Wow. Big difference.
What it is a difference. The thing with youth is to keep them engaged. And when they're idle behind computers, games, yeah, that's fun for a while, but they want to get involved. And the key component of JRTC success is a triad. It's the military, it's the school, and it's the community. And so I embrace that to get the kids involved in their community and involved in the military and understanding the military way of life. But the key thing for our youth in JRTC is that they're leading. It's a youth-led program. Yes, there are failures, but like all of us, we learn from those setbacks. And so I've watched that for 24 years. And so I bring them out so that they have to research a project, they have to write essays, and they have to work together. And so here they get to talk to park rangers to further their knowledge of what they've studied online, what they've Googled in the research. And so it reinforces that knowledge base, and they want to do more. And the last thing about what we do is the service learning. That's part of the curriculum. That service learning, they have to research a particular occupation and then provide a service. It's not just a, community service program, but they also exploring possible careers. And I've watched this for over 20 years of our young citizen leaders becoming better citizens through what we provide them in JRTC.
Now, Richard, what you have told me, and I'm involved in Sea Cadets as an instructor, and I've got friends with young Marines as well, and the Air Force has an organization. These organizations are directly tied to the military branch. And also, one of the most important things, almost 100%. I think you've told me 100% of your kids graduate from high school. We have the same thing with Sea Cadets, correct?
Right. It's 97.5. So we round up generously. So it's 97.5%.
That's pretty amazing, because what's the national average of kids that graduate from high school?
You're talking about in JRTC?
No, I'm talking about the national average of kids that go to high school. What is it, about 70% graduate? That means 30% don't?
Right. I'm not sure on the national average, but I do know on the JRTC average, it's in excess of 90%. That's nationwide, that JRTC cadets graduate nationwide over the 1,700 programs. But I don't know nationwide what's the average for high school students, so I don't want to quote on that.
One of the things too, these kids, and this is my experience with Sea Cadets, many of them get college scholarships. There are several of them apply and go to the academies. There are, the Naval Academy, the Air Force Academy, the Army Academy. There's also a Merchant Marine Academy I didn't know about till years ago. And they have great educational opportunities that they can get your education at no cost.
That is true, Jim. And I'm proud of the fact last year within Fort Worth JRTC programs, our cadets had a total of $37 million in scholarships. And that total includes the dollars that those who have signed up to go into the military because of those educational benefits. So we're very proud of that. And this year, I think we're on track to come close to that. So to get your college paid for, or go to the Service Academy. We have 3 cadets up at the West Point, 1 at Air Force Academy. And this year we don't have any Navy. Sorry about that, Jim.
Well, that's why we've got Sea Cadets, and Louisville has a fantastic naval ROTC program that I've been to one of their meetings and provided scholarship to two of
Yeah,
their students. And
that's
I got to tell you, the experience that you have, this is not Boy Scouts, this is not Girl Scouts, this is not selling cookies. This is actually participating with the military and in the military. And our Sea Cadets, for instance, go to the Joint Reserve Base in Dallas, Fort Worth, and they participate and they work with the reserves. This is an important thing because you're right, engaging. Now, what are some of the community service projects that you guys get involved in?
Oh, it's
Can you
so
tell me a
many
little
of
bit?
them. So many of them. Well, one of the major one, I would say the Carter Blood Bank. I have several of my programs that every year do their service learning project with blood, because blood saves lives. And so,
Absolutely.
and the part of that community service learning is that they also look at potential careers that they can do in that service. The other one is the Trinity Trash Bash. There's the big in Fort Worth, since the Trinity River is one of our water sources, and they understand environmental action needed to preserve our waterways and the safety of our water supply. They also have engineers come in and talk about water conservation, and those are potential careers also. And then they get to clean up uh, banks along the Trinity River. So that's a great service. And the Cowtown Brush Up, which is going to underprivileged communities and volunteering with Home Depot to paint and repair some of those houses. The other one is the uh, Cowtown 10K run that we provide support for them. And also they participate in those runs, the 5K. And the great thing, all the participants get a new pair of running shoes. So that's a, so every year we get more and more participating because of that incentive to get their shoes. The other one, we work with the homeless down on Lancaster Avenue, where we feed. And the one thing we've learned is that there's plenty of food and clothing that we collect and provide, but they just need someone to talk to, that reconnected to, I say, our humanity. And because by the grace of God, we could be in the same circumstances, and see youth engaging and participating is rewarding. I could go on and on, Jim.
Well, I think it's important too that the community know all of these things you're doing. But really, one of the reasons I wanted to do this right now, because this is the merry month of May, and you got kids that are going to be going to high school next year for the first time from junior high. You've got kids that are in high school, maybe they've spent a year and they're struggling. They're not doing real well. Joining the JROTC, getting involved in that is important because it will change a young student's life without a doubt.
Definitely. And the thing where their grades improve is because of the peer coaching. I mean, a 16-year-old will listen to a fellow 16-year-old than a middle-aged man, although we know some things. And so that's what I've seen over the years. And the other part of it, they will strive harder to succeed because of what they are part of. It's a reciprocal in that what I've seen. So yes, joining JRTC is not that you're going into the military. JRTC is going to provide you some of those skills that every employer wants. You know, respect, on time, ability to communicate. Those are life skills, and it's not a pathway to the military. But there's a strong perception that is what JRTC is, and we've tried to dispel that, for years.
Well, you're using military style training, and I think that's outstanding because let me
It,
tell you, Richard, you talked about you didn't do well your first semester in college. Well, I did 4 semesters in college, and guess what? I didn't do well. and I was not happy where I was. I went in, I had wanted to go in the Navy. My grandfather, my father didn't want me to go in the Navy because they were scared to death of Vietnam. I went ahead and went in the Navy, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Had I known about Sea Cadets, which got started in 1963, I would have been better prepared. If I'd gone into the Navy Reserve, I would have been better prepared. And this is what all of this does. It prepares you to be successful. It really does. And one of the things that was true about the Navy, and especially true when you're talking about 82nd Airborne and jumping out of perfectly good planes, you guys have got to learn how to work together as a team. You've got to learn to innovate. You've got to, when you hit the ground, you've got to come together, and all kinds of things happen. So you've got to learn to adapt, improvise, overcome, and achieve. And that's something that civilians many times don't understand, correct?
That is true. That sense of being part of a team, but the big part of that too is the discipline, and that discipline is in the sense of training, not as in punishment. And so you know that you're part of the team, and you don't want to let the team down. And you're being well trained, by professionals. That is why we're successful and we perform those routines. And JRTC works to instill that in our youth. So I remember my first jump as a 19-year-old, and was I afraid? Yes, but was after the first jump and listening to my instructors, I did about 25 more. So JRTC provides a foundation for success later in life, and it's from the mentorship and the coaching from instructors, and then helping igniting in the youth that passion to excel. And so I've watched that over and over. So it's structured on the military with the training and the expectations, and our young people who join JRTC, they have great success. I mean, I've watched it around the country, not just in Fort Worth schools, but around the country.
I got to tell you, it's really important, and I know this, and I have so much respect for you because I spent about 20 years volunteering in a halfway house for teenage boys coming out of the Texas juvenile prison system. Had they gone to a program like this, had their parents encouraged them to be in a program like your JROTC, they wouldn't have gone to prison because they would have learned discipline and respect and goal setting and planning and achievement. And these are very, very critical things. So we're going to take a break right now. We'll be right back after these words from all of our partners. You're watching the Veterans Impact Show. We're here for you today. Well, I want to say a special thank you to Nathaniel Smith with Send Podcasting, and to my beautiful wife, Diane, and to all the people who have helped me, including Richard Crossley, over the years build this program to where we're bringing you the best information and some of the best people. I also want to say a special thank you to my company, Fairway Independent Mortgage. My MLS number is 311548. Our corporate one is 2289. We are not only an equal opportunity employer and lender, we're especially tied to the military because we have the American Warrior Initiative, and we've given away over $1 million in service dogs to veterans throughout the United States. Fairway Independent Mortgage, we're across the nation. You want to have a good loan, but you want to have a great experience. We're it. Fairway, we're number one. And I want to say thank you, especially again to DBTV Network, who puts us on Amazon Fire and Roku, and some other exciting things that are getting ready to happen to expand this. So thank you, one and all. Richard, we're talking about JROTC, and you are in Fort Davis with 20 cadets from the JROTC in Fort Worth, and you're teaching them about history. You're teaching them hands-on history right there. Fort Davis, that's a very old fort, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's the best preserved frontier fort in Texas. Uh, I know in Texas. I don't know about the nation, but the park rangers here stated that to us. And just looking at the buildings here, it's remarkable. The soldier's life stationed out on the western frontier at that time, 1841 to 1891. This Fort Davis was operational.
Good grief. You know, that is history. Weren't the Buffalo Soldiers based there too for a
You're
while?
you're correct. The 9th and 10th Cavalry were stationed here, along with the 24th and 25th Regiment. They were all black regiments, and the commander at one time was Colonel Grierson. And the cadets and the instructors had an opportunity yesterday to go through the quarters there, which still have part of his artifacts and stuff in there. And remarkable, and his son has a bunk bed in there because he wanted to grow up and be a soldier like his dad. And of course, piano in there because Grierson was a music teacher before he became a soldier. So, and the kids understand from all walks of life and profession, you can still be a service member or a soldier. So they
Absolutely.
research that. Lot of history here. And again, they can apply that to how soldiers live today in the advances in the technology and the weapon systems.
I
And
got to
that's
tell
the
you,
engineering part.
your weapon system back in 1841 was a whole lot different than what we got today, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It is. But pretty much even the cannons much improved uh, with the cannons of today. So, but one thing remained the same pretty much is the bugle, and the the evolution of the headgear and the uniforms and all those things changes. It's still the same. You know, the blue pants, slacks with the gold braid, that has not changed. It's just some of the width of it has changed, and everything else remains the same.
You know, these kids, you're going to be giving out all kinds of awards. These 20 kids were your, I guess, 20 of your award
Best
winning
kids,
leaders.
yeah, yeah.
And so there's a lot of recognition when you're in an organization like that for a young man or young woman. And how can people find out if I was a parent or a grandparent and I'm listening to Veterans Impact Show and I go, wow, look at where they are and what they're doing. How can I get my child involved in that? Where do they go and what do they do?
What they can do is for one thing, they can go to the website of any high school, and on that website would list if there's a JRTC program there. And if they want to know something about it, they can. I'm going to give them my email. It's Richard.Crossley, Crossley at fwisd.org. And I can, anyone within Texas, I can direct them or link them up with a school district that has the program. And one key thing, homeschool students now are able to participate in JRTC. The
Oh,
only
that's
thing is
fantastic.
the parent has to go to the school, and there's a couple of forms to sign to ensure that you will bring the kid into school and pick them up, because the district does not provide the transportation for homeschools. And I've had homeschool students in my program in Fort Worth. So that's one of the key things that's now available. It's a federally funded program, so all students are permitted to participate in JRTC.
That is fantastic because I think it's important. Homeschooling is great, but you frequently miss out on some of the things that are going on.
Right.
I
It's the teamwork and the community service and the service learning things. Those are key to help identifying talents and skills and interests that could potentially lead to an occupation. And the thing that JRTC has in its curriculum is helping those young leaders identify what natural talents and skills they have. And with our success profile, which is part of the curriculum, and we help them identify their learning style, you know, their skill set, and potentially guide them towards their strength in a career. So JRTC provides a lot. It's more than left, right, left. It's more than marching. It's about preparing them for success later in life.
We're putting up the website of JROTC for everybody to see. The U.S. Army Junior ROTC program. Look at that. These young men and women are doing things. Now, we're going to take another break to hear from all of our partners. We're going to be coming back and talking about not only JROTC, but getting involved. But I also want to make a point of all of the different types of careers and training and things you can do in the military. You know, you were saying we want to dispel the myth that JROTC is part of the military or pushes people into the military. Hey, that's not altogether a bad idea because there's so many great careers. So when we come back, we're going to talk about the opportunities available in today's military for you.
Good morning.
Richard Crossley, what a great man, award-winning, amazing leader. He is so involved with young men and women, the director of the Fort Worth JROTC. Thank you for being my guest. Thank you for being my friend more than anything, because I've really enjoyed getting to know you over time and meeting your wife as well. I think one of the things that a lot of people think of when they think of the military is you're going to be a trigger puller, you're going to be on the front lines, you're going to get hurt. Richard, there are so many careers in the military that can lead to tremendous careers in civilian life. You know, if a kid likes to fly a drone, they're doing that, correct?
Yes, it's thousands, I would say, careers in the military that applies to civilian life. I mean, it really is. The military is just a reflection of our society, especially being a volunteer force. But whatever it is, from being an administrator of work, technical in the drones, the cyber, which is big in JRTC, it has robotics and drones that we have for competition for our cadets. And those kids, they like that. But on the other side, marksmanship, if that's something that you enjoy. But from flying to driving trucks, repairing planes, helicopters, to coding, programming robots, it's a range that's, I would say, endless of any careers in military that will apply back in our civilian life. We need the same thing that the civilian worlds need. We need cooks, we need doctors, we need nurses, we need mechanics, we need pilots, we need security officers, all of those. So you don't have to stay in the military. You can leave and still serve our country as a public servant or as a worker in any corporation or company across the country.
One of the things I want to make a point of too, people who live in the state of Texas, if you go in the military, then when you come out, you're eligible for the Hazelwood Act, which the Hazelwood Act will also pay for children or spouse tuition free to any state school. That's an amazing thing. And when I have also, you talked about, you went through a bunch of professions. I happen to know numerous doctors who started off in the military as corpsmen. The Army and the Navy and the Marine Corps. Now, the Marine Corps we use as Navy corpsmen. Their medical training is amazing. The Army is down at Fort Sam Houston, which trains all the medics in the Army. I don't know where the Navy training is, but it is tremendous training. And many of them, I have known many people who went from being a corpsman to being sent to college to go to medical school and actually then serve 6 years as a doctor. And they immediately, instead of spending a low paid job as an intern in a hospital, they were working on ships. They were working in hospitals throughout the military. So there's a wonderful program. If you want to be a doctor, but you go, man, there's no way my family could afford to send me to college to go to medical school. Hey, yeah, your family doesn't have to. Your family is now the United States military. We'll send you. Your family will pay for it. It's the United States military. No bad deal, right?
That's right. And I'll share a personal story. One of my cadets who graduated West Point served his 5 years, and the Army paid for him to go to University of St. Louis to become a doctor. So that's what he's doing. So they have schools across the nation. The military will pay for your college, your medical degree, and you go back into the military and serve. And I have countless cadets who, yeah, they were aircraft mechanics, but they went to flight school. You know, the Army used to have the slogan from high school to flight school.
Yeah.
And that's still now. So those skills who have the requisite technical ability, they can go straight into flight school, because the military needs pilots, so does the civilian world.
Absolutely. Here's another thing. Now, I'm not sure we need any more lawyers. That's supposed to be a joke. But I have a really good friend who went into the Marine Corps as an enlisted lady, woman, and she was working in like the JAG Corps office as like a paralegal, and she was so good. They put her through college and through law school. Now, think about that. Through law school, didn't cost her a dime. And it was a JAG Corps lawyer in the Marine Corps. Amazing, because she started working right off the bat. How many internships do we know in professional trades, CPAs, attorneys, doctors, where they have to intern and intern and intern, and yet in the military you're doing it and being paid? You don't get to be working for free or next to nothing.
Yeah. Morning.
And I got to tell
going
you,
to work.
So everybody, let's let everybody know, if you've just tuned in, we've got Lieutenant Colonel Richard Crossley, very dear friend of mine. He is with 20 JROTC cadets at Fort Davis. They're learning history. They're out in the open. They're going places. They're going to be doing a ruck march. Is that right, Richard?
Well, they're doing a hike. It's not a ruck march. They're just hiking up the mountain here to look out over the fort. So it's about a 1 mile hike. But we also have some firemen here. I don't know what they're going to do here. They're going to do some hiking. Okay, PT hike. Okay, so they're going to do some hiking too.
How great is that? So all of your cadets are learning history. They're out. They're going to seeing the Davis Mountains is incredible. You're going to see a lot of really cool stuff.
Yeah, it is. They were excited, and on tomorrow we head down to Big Bend, so they get a chance to see. Since we're so close, an hour and a half, we decided we'll take Sunday and go down to Big Bend, and head back to Fort Worth on Monday.
Now, Richard, do they have a firing range there? Will you be able to practice or do some rifle training?
There's no marksmanship range here. I'm sure there's ranges that they have out here, but we don't take cadets on the civilian ranges. We fire within the ranges that are provided by our school district and by the United States Army Cadet Command.
Let me mention that Diane and I are instructors with Sea Cadets. If you see my shirt says Sea Cadets, we took our young cadets down to Fredericksburg to a ranch, and we had a firing range, and they were able to practice and learn firearm safety skills from tremendous instructors, as well as they were being taught medical skills, first aid skills, things of that nature. as Sea Cadets. Now, also, just to let you know, last month, our Sea Cadets went with several squadrons of Sea Cadets, flew to Pensacola with
Wow.
VR-59,
Wow. Yeah.
and they toured the Naval Museum, which is the greatest air and space naval museum in the United States, is in Pensacola. That's the home of the Blue Angels. They got to fly down there on a Saturday, tour all of that, and come back
Wow.
in a yeah in basically 737. It's a C something or other, and I don't know. But I got to tell you, that's the kind of adventure they've got, and the young Marines do the same thing, in the Air Force. They're all doing things like that together. You
Yeah,
want your
great.
kid to get a chance, take a look at the various and sundry junior ROTC programs for all of the military.
Yes. We do that. I mean, I'm not. I tell them all the oath is the same that we take Marines, Army, Air Force. But again, you know, if there's something that is going to benefit one of my cadets, I'm all in. And
Absolutely.
we will go places, but we will also you know, have them to do some research and stuff. It's not just a ride. It's not just a trip. You have to do some research, and those are life skills too. And so that is to help them unlock that potential within them, because they're all gonna grow up, and they
Yeah,
all need a job. And it's not, that job could be in the civilian world or it could be in the military. And both is going to make our country stronger, because an
absolutely.
educated workforce is needed and a strong military is needed. So we're going to benefit as a whole. And I look
Richard,
at,
yeah, you are training the leadership of tomorrow. You are training our future. You are living into their lives. And we need more men like that. I talked with General John Campbell about part of the problem of recruiting in the military. We need to be, those of us who can, are involved. I'm involved as an instructor in Sea Cadets, but we need to be mentors. We need to show up. We need to be a part of these young people's lives, and you do that.
yeah, well, I talked with General John Campbell on what was that, Monday night, up at an award ceremony at Marcus High School. I met him and chatted with him. He does a great job for the community. Provided an Air Force scholarship. That's the Air Force Campbell you're talking about, right?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He puts together our national defense series, and
Okay.
that's great. You know, it's also one of the things you and I participate in is our community salutes, which
Yeah.
basically honors high school graduates who are going into the military. And man, this last one was really great at Parker College, and the one we did in Fort Worth as well
Yeah.
was
At a
tremendous.
VPA. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what's so great? Those young men and women, I sat down and talked with them and their families. And I said, well, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to a special training for this. I'm going to special training for that. I'm going into aviation maintenance. I'm going into this. I'm going into drone training. You sit there and you listen. These guys are so excited
Yeah.
about what they're getting ready to do. You
Yeah.
know?
They are, because they are now leaving high school, and now they're entering into the workforce that happen to be in the military. But even in job outside of the military, you're still going to get some training. So they're excited about that, but they're also going to be part of a proud history in our U.S. military. So I see
And
that over and over.
yes, our military has struggled, has made mistakes, but we've led the way in integration and of bringing people together. Not always been perfect. I'm not going to say that it was, but if we don't understand history, then we're bound to repeat the mistakes of the past. And you're teaching that right now.
And good point you bring up, because the military was a key part in the westward expansion of this nation. You look at
Absolutely.
the frontier forts to protect the telegraph line, the railroads, the immigrants to move west. The military was a key part of the development of our nation.
Absolutely. And the Buffalo Soldiers were right. A lot of people don't know about the Buffalo Soldiers.
They don't.
That's amazing to me. That was a cavalry that they were fierce fighters, and
They
they
were.
protected the frontier.
Yeah, the stagecoach, the mail, the route from San Antonio to El Paso. So key component of development of our country.
You know, you got them out there with that history. I hear a bugle call in the background.
Yeah, yeah. That's it. That it's a Western fort.
It is.
Ask him what it's for.
So,
What was the bugle call for? Do you know?
Well, that bugle call, I think it may be for, since it's, what is it? It's 10.
Yeah.
That's probably with some what they we've had reveille. To be honest, I don't know what that one is, but it's something to alert them that it's not lunch. so I couldn't tell you. I'll ask the ranger here.
Hey, you know what? We had bugle calls in the Navy, boy. They also had a bosun's pipe that they blew to make announcements. So we've all got our own things, and I think it's amazing what you're getting to do with these young men and women. They're in Fort Davis, and what you're doing in the community. That's you have earned. You received. I just want to let everybody know the Daughters of the American Revolution, the Distinguished Citizens Medal. That's an amazing honor. Doesn't go to everybody. And I thank you for your service in achieving that.
Well, I was humble and honored that the DAR presented that to me. But as I reflect, I did 23 years active, and I've done 24 in JRTC. And I weigh those, I compare. They were both great, but I feel that I've done more in these 24 years with our youth to make America stronger and safer than my 23 years on active duty, planning operations around the world. So that's how I feel about being a JRTC instructor.
And Richard, when you go back, you were part of the 82nd Airborne. Well, to some civilians, what does that mean? 82nd Airborne was one of the most historical divisions in the United States Army during World War II. 82nd Airborne and the 101st were at Bastogne in the Battle of the Bulge.
Yes.
The 82nd has led the way. The 82nd Airborne is an amazing organization. That's where I think your Rangers came out of, 82nd and 101st. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, they did. I think so, because I know with the D-Day landed, there was Rangers that were at Pont de Hoc.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure they were born of the 101st or the 82nd, those Rangers.
It's amazing. You are reliving history again today at Fort Davis. So we're going to take another break, and I'm going to be bringing this program back into the dock. We're going to wrap up in just a second, but we are having a great time. Please share this program. Share it with your friends who have children, grandchildren. This is important. And for those of you who are out there, we're going to tell a couple of stories when we come back. It's important to know that we got to be involved with our youth, and Richard Crossley is leading the way. It's important. Join in, be a part, because we're here for you, and you be there for them.
Well, they made it to the top.
They sure did. We made it to stop one.
So Richard's at Fort Davis, Lieutenant Colonel Richard Crossley, with 20 ROTC cadets from Fort Worth, and they're out there studying history. One of the things you talked about is writing. Tell me some stories that the kids learned about when they write and when they're seeing that history, that Fort Davis, one of the oldest in the United States, the home of the Buffalo soldiers. Tell me a little bit about what they're experiencing when they write this.
Well, they're experiencing it. It's amazing. We have reflections every evening where they have to write. We have an English teacher with us, so that they have to write essays, and to what they write about and reflect that. Well, I never, you know, knew about this. It was not in our history book that we used, and so they said, "Well, I didn't know that." So the thing with Flipper court martial here, they were not aware of that, and they had a chance to look at some of the archives, that was stored. They went out of their way here to give us access to some of the artifacts that was here, and so later they're going to not reenact, but we have a series. They're called Chief Justice, where they play the judges and they decide a particular case. And on this one, they've researched the court martial of Flipper here, and they're going to have a mock trial, if you will.
Oh, how great!
Yeah, and so that learning is invaluable there. But back to what they get out of this, they get a chance to actually touch and feel and see. That's experiential learning. It's not theory. It is they get to actually feel and see the cannons. They get to see the barracks. They get to see the weapons, and then they get to read the transcript of the even the actions, the raids that they did, and they get to see how the Buffalo Soldier, captured or helped cap Victorio, who was the Apache leader that was really notorious in the Southwest from Texas down to Mexico. So it's great to see their writing and their perspective of their experiences of these staff rides. So I'm excited to see what they write here in the next couple of days about this experience, Concho and Fort Davis.
One of the things you said, you've got an English teacher and you're writing these things. That's something exciting a kid would want to write about. One of the biggest problems that I hear some people saying is the kids today don't want to write because they're so used to texting and this, that, and whatever.
You're right.
But if you can't communicate the written word, if you can't write, you're at a big disadvantage, and you're giving them something to get excited to want to write about. You're motivating. That's a lot of what the military organizations that are training ground, Sea Cadets, Young Marines, ROTC, what is it? The Civil Air Patrol. What is
Yes, Civil Air Patrol. That's true.
And man, they're learning.
That's it. And the part of it is it's experiential. You're viewing it, but you still have to write, no matter how much AI and Chat GPT comes about. That is a timeless skill. And I see that vanishing with the AI and technology that can write an essay for you. But that skill, that's a life skill, being able to communicate in writing. And so I like to reinforce that in my cadets.
I think that's great. Richard, we're about to come to the end. I do want to ask one question that I've asked of you before, and you say it all the time. What would you say to a young man and woman who says, I'm considering the military? You have had a phenomenal double career in the military. What would you say to them?
That you're thinking about joining the military, I would say get with a local recruiter and also explore, what opportunities are there for you. And based upon your skill set, your interest, what you want to do in life, select a career field in the military. And that could be any branch. But I would tell you, it will be a lifelong rewarding experience, whether you do 4 years or 30 years. You're going to gain some things, some friendship. You're going to gain money for education. You can have a decent quality of life. you got insurance, you got a steady income, you get 30 days paid vacation, and companies don't do that off the bat, and you're going to gain some lifelong friends. And it's a great journey.
Absolutely. And you know what? When you get out, you become a member of the biggest fraternity in the world, which
That's
is the
true.
American Veteran. And we are so engaged. Both you and I are so engaged in the organizations like our Community Salutes, MOAA, the
Hey,
Military Officers Association. I'm involved in Navy League. I know you're involved in AUSA, and I'm involved there as well. By being involved, we are leaders in our community. By being involved, we're setting the pace. And I think that that is an important thing, especially the other thing is, as veterans, we're trying to bring this country back together and show people what we can do and show people in the community. I think that's tremendously important. We've
well,
got to bring this nation back together.
you're right, but when you talked about we're serving, I think of the SLA Marshall quote. You know, when he talks about the meaning of your commission, he says it is the duty of the U.S. service member to continue to serve his country after he takes off the uniform. And that uniform figuratively is retirement, or you ETS. You still, that oath of enlistment or commission is still in effect. And so
Absolutely.
that's
To
what
continue
veterans,
the
right,
mission.
right,
Let me
to
let
serve.
me say thank you, Richard. We've got to end this program. So I always end with a prayer. Father God, we are so tremendously thankful for men like Richard Crossley who lead this nation and who lead our youth. Dear God, thank you. Continue to give them wisdom and guide them. And thank you for what they do, and let them be an example to everyone in our nation. Thank you, dear God, for bringing us together. Put a hedge of protection around our active duty military and first responders who run into the fire instead of away from it. And thank you for our veterans who are bringing this nation back together, one organization at a time. We thank you for this and bring this nation together. Amen.
Amen.
Hey, have a great day. Richard,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Jim. Diane, thanks.